In honor of The Hobbit, I am going to make this review into 3 parts and make each part 30 minutes long. Yeah, right. Oh, Peter Jackson, we love you, but dang, you need to learn to do some pacing. Anyway, let's get to my review. What up, big hits? Here's your big review of The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. This review will have spoilers towards the end, but I'm going to do the non-spoiler part first, and then when I get to the spoilers, I'll warn you. So I saw this movie actually last week. I've been meaning to review this, and yeah, this is the epic finale of the Hobbit trilogy, which is really weird to say. And I'll get to the whole film series as in. Now, the Battle of the Five Armies, which originally was going to be called There and Back Again, but they definitely chose the battle. It's pretty much, this feels like the third act of a movie, which kind of is because it is the finale of a trilogy. But with that said, let me get to what I like. First off, the cast is amazing as always. You know, I love, Ian McKellen as Gandalf. Martin Freeman as Bilbo is awesome. Definitely in this one compared to others, he's not in it as much as I'd like him to be, but that's because Richard Armitage as Thorin Oakenshield, he is awesome. This is really, besides Bilbo's story, this is really about him. This is about being there and back again. Getting the kingdom of the dwarves back, and he's definitely has some amazing parts, and I'll get to some spoilers when his part in a bit, but yeah. And then I love Lee Pace, as he is just awesome in this. I loved him in throughout this series. I think he was one of the best parts of the last movie, and he's definitely super awesome in this one. And seeing Orlando Bloom as Legolas is so great, and Evangeline Lilly, her character Thariel, even though she was created just for this movie, she is beautiful and badass, and I love seeing her and her relationship, or not relationship, but if you saw, of course, the Decimation of Smog, definitely the relationship they're trying to build with what's his name, Philly, or was it? Gosh, there's so many dwarves I can't even think. It was I think it was Philly or Killy or Nori. I can't even think. But yeah, the good looking dwarf. Yeah, I like him, by the way. I just can't think of the names offhand. Which one? I think it was Philly or either Philly or Killy. It's one of them. Anyway, yeah, that they were great together in their dynamic and stuff. And then it was great seeing cameos from other Lord of the Rings characters, which I won't spoil. Well, it's kind of shown in the trailer, so you know who I'm talking about, but it was great seeing them. But yeah, Hugo Weaving, Christopher Lee, Kate Blanchett, who they play. But anyways, Luke Evans as Bard, he is awesome. Also, the big thing was Smog, voiced beautifully by Benedict Cumberbatch. His part's not big in this movie, which I'll get to in the non-spoiler thing, but yeah, he was badass, especially when he was attacking Dale, or the town and stuff. Anyways, it's so much action in this movie. It's definitely on the scale of Two Towers and Return of the King. So many this battle is like great with the orcs and the dwarves and the hobbits, and not hobbits, but humans, sorry. And yeah, it was pretty epic. It was definitely the most action probably in this one compared to the other ones. So if you love action, you definitely will love this one. Now, let me get to what I didn't like before I get into the spoiler. So, like I said, I love the cast, the action. The action, though, can be very CGI heavy. Compared to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Peter Jackson is definitely, and I understand the technology, blah, 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 but I kind of like the look and aesthetics of the more practical makeup effects of the Lord of the Rings versus this more CGI heavy. I know some characters like Smaug has to be CGI, but I really feel like they could have done more like how they did in the original Lord of the Rings, more practical stuff, and it definitely in the battle scenes look very much like something out of a video game. And like I said, I don't mind that if I was playing a video game, but in a movie, I rather see more up close action. There was even like some of the dwarves. Like some dwarves are like, they do things where they make the regular actor, they make it just look smaller, but like some of the dwarves are CGI and it just like, yeah, you can definitely tell. And the 3D was okay, but it wasn't anything that I would recommend seeing in 3D. I saw it in like the IMAX 3D equivalent at my local theater, and it was not as grand as I thought it would be. And then I've been saying about these last, the whole movies together is definitely, it didn't have to be 3 movies. I'm still shocked that The Hobbit they were thinking about doing 2 movies, but let alone 3. It's like this. There's so many ways that when they cut it from the decimation of smog, and then how smog, they take care of the whole smog thing is just like really, they could have. I really felt like they could have led the more of the build up to smog, into like the decimation of smog and the unexpected journey into one movie, and then put like the whole smog part and the Battle of Five Armies into one, and then just cut out so much things that they didn't need to be. There was just too much filler between all 3 movies, and it really, you can tell it was a very cash grab from the studio to make it, and it really didn't need to be a trilogy. And in fact, I felt like it hurt parts of the overall story making it into 3 movies. Like this one felt like it wasn't as much character development on some parts because it was just finishing up what it's just. I wish they stopped doing that. But now let's get to spoilers. So that's my non-spoiler part of it. So yeah, like the whole thing of smog, which I was just talking about, how he just pretty much, I mean, if you know the book, seeing the anime film, smog gets taken out by Bard from the arrow. But it's like 5 minutes of film. They build up so much, smog's gonna like wreck the town, and I thought it was gonna be maybe a little bit longer, like at least 10 minutes longer, 15-minute sequence, but no, it was, man, I mean, and that just shows that this movie series could have easily been just 2, even 1. I felt like it could have been 1 3-hour movie if I would have been happy with that. There was just, like the whole thing that you build up to, like, with Thorin, being the treasures building up to make him like get all, oh my gosh, it's take over and get all greedy, I must protect the treasure, and it ultimately comes to his senses, but he stops the orcs, but like he dies, so I mean that scene was great. I loved, especially Bilbo was there, and he asked for his like forgiveness, but ultimately I felt the whole journey of Thorin, it was just so spread out more than it needed to be, and because like it put more like I said, it's definitely more about Thorin than even Bilbo. And then that ending after the whole thing, they didn't have the whole Return of the King, like multiple endings, but they were trying to connect things to what will be the Fellowship of the Ring, but it just also ends up being more like, okay, well, all right, cool, that over there, you explain too much of one thing, like of characters that aren't even in the book, but you don't explain that much of other thing. That's like what me and my fiance were talking about afterwards. Like I said, I really enjoyed this. I don't think as much as Decimation Smog. You saw my review. I definitely love that one the best out of the 3, and because I love Smog the best, and definitely the highlights of this whole film trilogy. Besides Bilbo and Thorin and Gandalf is Smog and Gollum, seeing them, and then seeing Legolas and Lee Pace is the Elf King, so with that said, I would give The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies a 4 out of 5. Definitely it's worth seeing, especially if you're a huge Lord of the Rings fan. If you've been enjoying these series, like I said, it's not as good as the Decimation of Smog in my opinion, but definitely better of Unexpected Journey. And if you love action, the battle scenes, even though it's a little CGI heavy, I definitely recommend it. So yeah, check out Rip the Apparel for awesome Hobbit themed shirts like this one. Check out more on my website, SeanXLong.com. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, links in the description. I'm Sean Long, where I live long and love life. By the way, is anyone else sad that Dracula took out Dragon? Con! I'll see you in Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch. I love your voice. I landed on some strange planet and what are you doing? Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things gonna get brighter. Dance off me and you, bro, someday. Dance off, huh? Well then. Ow!